to do a real quick interview with the legend, John Lyons. I think hardly nobody would disagree. One of the all-time greatest horsemen ever was. I know even as me growing up, reading his DVDs and books and everything made a huge influence on my life. And I doubt there's anybody in the modern era that has not been influenced by John Lyons. And I was telling him down south when the horses are acting up and the horseshoers need to do that, we call Ace John Lyons in a bottle. And he had actually never heard that before, which blows my mind. But we was talking about mules a little bit, and he had some really cool insight. He said he hasn't trained a lot of mules, just like 400 or so. I mean, for most people, that's a lot. I mean, but if you do as many horses as him, that's a minuscule number, I'm sure. But anyway, so I'm going to let him say a few words about mules.
Well, what we were talking about is training them, and let's say I've got an unbroke mule or an unbroke horse. I'm more careful when I work with a mule because I feel like mules are a little smarter. I have to attribute it to the fact that they're smarter. And the reason is, let's say somebody brings me a horse that has been dragging them off at the end of a lead rope for 3 or 4 years. I can fix that in an afternoon. That's not a big deal to fix. However, if a mule ends up dragging a lead rope out of somebody's hands 3 or 4 times, it might take me 30 days to get that escape route out of the mule's mind. So it wouldn't bother me to take a horse that has not been broke, not halter broke, get it broke to ride that day and take it out on a trail ride. That wouldn't be a big deal, even though it's not halter broke. But I wouldn't put a mule in that environment, because if I put him in an environment where he learns something I don't want him to learn, then now I've got to fix it, and I don't want to do that because they remember it longer. So I think, overall, if you said, John, how would you compare the intelligence of a mule to the intelligence of a horse? I would absolutely have to say that a mule is far more intelligent. I had a fella, we didn't talk about this, but I had a fella bring me a mule to a clinic in Idaho, I think it was. And he didn't have time, he couldn't take time off work to attend the clinic. Well, at that time, what I would do is, if the clinic was full, I would take somebody's horse, for them and ride it through the clinic. So he brings this mule, and this mule was huge. I mean, it was a gorgeous mule, and he never told me the name of it. And so I named it Mayflower because it was as big as a ship. And so anyway, so I asked him what he wanted done with this mule. And he says, well, it's broke to ride. He'd picked it up in Missouri, and it's a nice mule. He said he'd just like it a little bit better. So I got to play on his mule. Well, this was a nice mule. I mean, it was a nice mule. There wasn't a whole lot I could do with it. Well, I kept fooling with it, and pretty soon, this mule's gaiting. This is a nice gaited mule. It's doing a nice single foot move or gait and stuff. This is really nice. So at the end of the week, he shows back up, and I said, is this mule a gaited mule? And he said, well, yeah, it is. He said he bought it from some people in Missouri, some dressage people in Missouri, who are beating this mule, trying to get it to quit gaiting. And I'm thinking, no way. Why in the world would you do that? And so, and I had another fella down in San Antonio when I had Zip, and that Appaloosa horse, all that bridleless work. And he came up to me and he showed me his mule that he had trained bridleless, off of the same cue system. He had the exact same cue system, that he had learned and taught his mule to do. So a mule, the way I look at a mule is a mule can do almost everything, if not everything, that a horse can do. You said, horses rope, your mule's rope, right? And so there's not much, if anything, that a horse can do that a mule can't do. You're not going to have a world champion reining mule, to compete at that level, but that's not what they're designed to do. But you can certainly do sliding stops, and you can certainly spin, and you can certainly do all those cool things, that a reiner will do. So mules, I love working with them. I really do. I don't get as much of a chance as I would like to. But mules are great animals, and they make great horses. I think they come undone not as quick as a horse.
Once they get broke, they tend to stay broke more.
Yeah, they give people more leniency that they're going to do their thing, they're going to figure out their thing, and they're not either going to be pushed into something, nor are they going to be talked out of what they've already learned. So you can take a good, solid mule, and that mule will stay good and solid on its training, I think, longer than a horse. And I think that's one of the reasons they're becoming more and more popular, because people are actually learning. They're not learning as much, with these horses and stuff. And so the mule's training stays in a little bit longer. If it's good and solid, if somebody's handled that mule correctly and it's good and solid, it's going to be nice. I had another mule that I was thinking about. It was in Ridgway, Colorado, in about 1981. And this mule came into the round pen. Now, Ridgway, Colorado is about 8,500, 9,000 feet. So there's not a whole lot of air, and it was wet and raining. And this round pen is on a slant. I mean, it is a pretty good slant. Well, I had 10 or 15 horses in it, whatever it was, I don't remember. And this mule, unbroke mule. Well, this mule comes into the round pen and goes about 3 steps, off of the gate, sticks its head over the fence, and stays there for 5.5 hours. No matter what I did, I could not get that mule to go off and around that round pen. I tried everything. Of course, I started, little, and then took the rope, and I'm throwing the rope, then I'm taking the rope and whacking this mule. So in 5.5 hours, I'm trying to get this mule to take one trip around this round pen. Well, it finally got to the point that I'd been to Australia and done some clinics down there and brought one of those stock whips back. And now this mule's kicking back at me, backing up and kicking back and going right to the fence. So I had people stand around the round pen. And I said, okay, if that mule sticks his nose over the fence, just kind of whack him on the side of the head. Get his nose back inside the fence. So nothing worked. That mule just stood by that gate. That fella had hit him, he'd go thump and just go back. And thump, go right back. So finally, again, after 5.5 hours trying to figure this out, what I did is I had a big quarter horse stud. His name was Dream. So I brought Dream into the round pen, sent him around the round pen, hit that mule. He was strong enough to bump that mule pretty hard. But then what happened, he did that twice, and the mule looked at him and said, oh, you just want me to go around the fence. So it took that mule 5.5 hours to teach me how to get a mule to move that did not want to move around that round pen. So it was a great lesson.
They definitely learn more about watching others. I know when we're training a colt, like if you want to cross a ditch, if somebody wanted to kind of spank a horse and make it cross a ditch, it will. But like you said, with a mule, it don't work.
Right.
But I've had mules that's never seen a ditch before, and we just start riding our horses across, and about the third or fourth one, they just drop a line and cross, and then they never bother about a ditch the rest of their life.
Well, again, that's what I'm saying. I mean, they are definitely, without a doubt, I think they are smarter, and I think that's why it takes a better trainer to work with. I really do.
Yeah, I know you would never say it because you're a super nice guy, but there's a lot of trainers out there that are also very big names, and they don't want to work with mules. They don't want to be around mules, and they want to even allow mules in their clinics. And that's what I've always said, was they weren't enough horsemen to deal with it, because basically a mule's going to demand to be treated the way you should treat a horse. But anybody who is a good, like say anybody who is a John Lyons certified thing, almost any one of your people you would think could take a mule and be fine with it, though, right? It's not a magical difference. It's just you got to have some common sense,
Well, exactly. You have to have the training techniques that work. You can't shove this mule into a bottle. You cannot make it do it. You have to think as you're going through it, and you can't be using force to do it. You got to figure out a different way. You can't just whack them into it or push them into it. You just like that mule took that mule 5.5 hours to teach me a lesson. That's all it was. It wasn't me teaching the mule a lesson. It was me learning the lesson of how to do this. And so you have to, anybody who works with them, there's lots and lots of great trainers out there, clinicians and whatever, that can teach a mule, and do really well. If they are trying to force horses, if they're trying to push, there's just some that don't have the knowledge. What I have found, when people make derogatory comments about any breed, whether it's a mule, whether it's any breed of horse, what I have learned to ask, well, how many of you train? How many of you own? And most of the time, they have not even owned one, and at the most, they maybe have owned 3. Well, how would we like to evaluate the worth of a breed? The value of a breed, the goodness of a breed, on one trainer and 3 of those horses. So almost 90% of the time, in fact, I would say 99% of the time, when somebody makes a derogatory comment about a mule, you ask them, how many mules have you trained? And never will you find that person saying, 15, 20 mules. You'll find that, well, I saw one time,
right, exactly.
But I haven't ever owned one. I never started one from scratch. And so people are just regurgitating, trying to look important for what they really don't know and what they have never done.
Yes, sir. Well, I thank you so much for saying something for the mules. And
you're welcome.
All right, guys.
Seeing y'all.
Yeah, so super nice, John Lyons, legend, and he's got so many things going on. And now, if you guys don't know, I wasn't really aware of this, but his sons and daughters and all of them are involved in this thing now. It's called the Legacy Program.
Oh, it's cool. I am so lucky. I've got 7 kids, and 3 of them are out doing clinics and training. And I tried to talk them out of it. I didn't try to talk them into the horse business. I tried to talk them out of it, because we all know it's a hard life. It's not an easy life for a family, etc. So I have 3 kids that are doing it, full-time clinicians, and doing expos like this.
The traveling's hard. The traveling's hard on the family.
Oh, it is. It's really hard. Brandy's in Arizona, Josh is in Tennessee, Michael is in North Carolina, so they're scattered all over. We have actually 2 grandkids now. Austin, Josh's oldest boy, he's doing clinics, on his own and stuff. And then we also have a granddaughter doing clinics. We're not doing clinics yet, but she's still working with her mom. So it's really cool. We're very, very fortunate. And one of the things that makes it really nice, just like at this expo, I get together with my kids and play out there in the arena and ride and enjoy each other.
Right. I know because I went to the clinic. I'd go to Brandy's clinic and you'd be there, and I go to Josh's clinic, you'd be there, and then Josh would be at Brandy's, and Brandy would show up at Josh's.
Right.
So you can't keep these guys apart from each other. So it was a good time meeting them. And I sure appreciate everything you've done, sir.
Oh, you're very welcome.